Have you heard of the phrase counterintuitive? Counterintuitive is defined as contrary to intuition or common sense experience, but often nevertheless true. So for example, when you're at a restaurant, studies have shown that the less options you are given, the more likely you are to be happy with what you ordered. Or how in golf, it's the person with the lowest score that's the winner. Or the fact that The Bachelor is this incredibly popular TV show, but it's actually terrible. Okay, maybe that's more of a personal opinion. I just don't like the show. Counterintuitive refers to a truth that is actually opposite of what we would naturally think, which is probably why so many throughout history have struggled to grasp the concept of the kingdom of God, because so many of Jesus' teachings on the subject are counterintuitive. A few weeks ago, we looked at a portion of Jesus' teaching from the Sermon on the Mount, which, if you remember, is meant to be read as a description of life in the kingdom. We focused on Matthew 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is counterintuitive. It's only natural that we would think that those with a rich, full spirit, those who are super religious, would be the ones who are blessed. But Jesus is teaching that in the kingdom of heaven, the exact opposite is true. It's actually the spiritual zeros who are blessed. And Jesus doesn't stop there. If you continue reading the Sermon on the Mount, you'll see other teachings like, "You have heard it said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Or you have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." In the Gospel of Mark, we read a story where the two brothers, James and John, approach Jesus with a request to have the seats of honor in his kingdom. And Jesus responds by saying, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave to all." In Matthew 18, Jesus teaches that whoever takes the lowly position of a child will actually be the greatest in the kingdom. You're seeing a theme here, right? Turn the other cheek, love your enemy, the lowest is the greatest, die on a cross in order to win a victory? We'll get to that in a minute. This is all totally counterintuitive. This is backwards, but this is the kingdom of God. An essential element to God's kingdom is something that N.T. Wright calls the reversal of power. In other words, the things that you think matter, or the people you think are important, or the actions that might seem right or good or beneficial to you, that's not always so in the kingdom of God. And many of the things you think don't matter, the people who you treat as unimportant, the actions that you don't see any way that they could possibly benefit you, many of those things are integral to kingdom life with God. In this way, the kingdom is not only counterintuitive, the kingdom of God is countercultural. The kingdom life that Jesus calls us to often goes against so many of the things that our culture teaches us to celebrate and value. N.T. Wright says the Gospels are consistently telling the story of how God's one-time action in Jesus ushered in a new world order, within which a new way of life is not only possible, but mandatory of Jesus followers. Meaning that we are called to live in and reflect the backwards, upside-down nature of God's kingdom in and through our lives. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of a better time to do this than in this now moment. In the midst of coronavirus and isolation and stay at home, we are called to live counterculturally. Not in an irresponsible way that puts other people at risk, but while others are hoarding, we can actually become more generous. While the news leads with fear, we can actually lead with hope through and in spite of our fear. While the temptation may be to retreat into isolation, we must be more committed to connection and community than ever before. And if you're interested in some more practices or ideas for how to live out this countercultural kingdom lifestyle in this season, we have a next step practice available for you in the description down below. But as for now, may you go and may you live in and lean into the backwards, upside down, countercultural kingdom of God right here and right now. I love you all. Keep being awesome.